it's on.
Good. Well, welcome, Nora. Thank you for being willing to have this conversation with me and to record it so that we could share with some of our folk at the Sunday morning service as we think about Orange Shirt Day and how we want to continue to be in solidarity and stand with First Nations people, in particular that call that every child matters. I guess first of all, I should introduce myself. So for the audience, I'm Reverend Minnie Fornage. So I serve Alberni Valley United Church and Courageous Community Center. And Norah and I have been part of a Road to Reconciliation group that gathers monthly. And we have been meeting for about 2 years. So I'd just like to introduce to you Norah Martin, and she'll tell us more about herself, but she's from Taloquiet, and we've become pretty good friends. So thank you, Norah. I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you, Minnie. My name is Norah Martin. I'm from Clayoquot First Nations. I have 6 brothers and 3 sisters, and my grandparents on both sides, my dad's parents and my mom's parents, and my parents and my aunts and uncles, they all went to residential school in Christie School here at Mears Island. And my siblings, except for my brother Joe and my brother Dean, were all residential school survivors. And we've come a long way since we went to residential school. And Orange Shirt Day, that's symbolic of this young lady that went to residential school, and I don't recall where she was from. When she got to the residential school, she was not allowed to wear orange, and that's why they chose it as Orange Shirt Day. Of course, there was many other things that we weren't allowed to do in residential school, and residential school has really negatively impacted our people, and to this day we're still being affected by it. We have many behaviors that stem from the residential school, and it's taken a long time for us to heal and to recover from residential school. People are still working at that, and it's not easy. It's very difficult. Some people won't even talk about it because they were so hurt so badly and really abused in residential school, and maybe a third of the people that went to residential school just cannot talk about it. It's so painful. People tell us to get over it and to move on. It's something that you can never get over. I know I went in 1968 to 1971, and when we came back home, my brothers and sisters, my younger brothers and sisters, went to Christie School, and they were there for another maybe 3-4 years, maybe longer, I don't recall. And it's been a difficult journey. When I started my healing journey in 1982, I came from a background that there was a lot of alcoholism, a lot of violence. In the 60s, they said that was the worst year for us. I recall living in my community in a Pitsit. It was rampant in our community. The violence, to alcoholism. It wasn't probably until the late 70s and early 80s when people started to seek treatment and go for 6-week programs at Cacao's or I can't remember the other places where they went, but it's been a long journey. We still have lots to do. We still have a lot of healing to do. It's not that our people are lazy or the things that were pounded in our head when we were in residential school is that we'll never amount to anything, that we were no good. When I went to school in Port Alberni from the residential school, I was placed in ADSS and all of the students from the Alberni Indian Residential School were placed in one classroom. It was called the occupational class. And I remember hearing somebody telling us why we were in there. They said, "Oh, it's for stupid people, and you'll you'll never learn anything. You'll never know anything." And that really hurt. I I know that I am not stupid. I'm not dumb. I'm not lazy. I've worked since I was a teenager. I've been working. I started off in the fish cannery, and I've had a job pretty well most of my life. I've had one job in my community here in health, and I've never had to go out and find another job in a different community and so I've been very fortunate. And but of course, I know that many of our people cannot get jobs because they don't have that education. They don't have the elementary or high school education, and it's no fault of their own. I know what I went through, that being in the occupational class, and I tried to ask the teacher for help, and he just ignored me. And it was like that all the way through school, right from the day I started school until I finished in grade 10. I just dropped out because it was so frustrating and so difficult to get an education. When I left school, I managed to learn how to write myself, and I've gone for other training courses over the years through my job, and I've been able to learn that way and learn by observing, and many of our people don't have that, and that's why there's so much unemployment. I know one of the young fellows in my community is living in town now, and he was so frustrated when he lived here. He says, "I can't even get a job dishwashing because he doesn't have grade 12." And he went to fill out a form and he was so embarrassed because he couldn't read and write. And he didn't want to ask for help because that would create more embarrassment on him. So it's been a long journey, and for reconciliation, there's just so much that we're dealing with. We're up against a lot of racism, and it's been like that for generations. What I've seen and what I've heard myself and how I get treated by non-natives. Um, I believe that to overcome a lot of these obstacles, that we all need to work together to understand each other. Hopefully listening to my story, you'll have a little better understanding of where we're coming from. And I'm not shaming my people, I'm not shaming my family because they don't have an education. It's the, if you go back and you look at the reasons why residential schools were created, why Indian hospitals were created, and the day schools, they were all working together to destroy us and to annihilate us. And they almost succeeded. Like, you know, you look at my community, and when I talked about the 60s and how there was so much violence, so much alcoholism, I'm surprised that a lot of us survived that.
For sure.
And for myself, you know, living in that time and being witness to that, I grew up in that environment, and it affected me for many years. Seeing a woman getting beat up on the street and dragged home by her hair, and hearing women screaming and crying and being raped right in our community. So yeah, we've got a lot of work to do, and hopefully we can create more opportunities to work together, to have a better understanding. And I believe that we have a lot of healing to do yet. And taking that step and acknowledging the wrongs that were committed against us. And they're still happening today. I'm still hearing about children that are placed in foster care that are being sterilized. Little boys and little girls are being brought to a hospital and being sterilized. And that's genocide. They're committing genocide against us. And that really hurts me and it scares me a lot. Worried for our future and what we're up against. It's like it never ends. Now we're dealing with people in Nova Scotia, back east, and the lobster fishermen and how they're being treated. And we go through the same thing here, like with the fisheries. There's always a lot of fighting about fisheries. And so there's a lot to learn. So thank you. I hope that helped a little bit with, you know, what reconciliation is about, is healing and acknowledging and taking responsibility and having that understanding, creating that opportunity to work together. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Norah.
Mm-hmm.
It's been such a beautiful privilege to get to know you and to sit in circle with you and to witness your journey and the journey of other survivors who sit in that circle. It's been an amazing gift of relationship, which I'm so thankful for. Norah, just as a way of, I guess, wrapping up maybe our time, I often have people ask me, well, what can I do, right? What action can I take in terms of more recently, maybe in terms of systemic racism. And
Mm-hmm.
I know from other conversations with you, you've done some letter writing recently. But what would you say to a Caucasian, white, non-native person who's not sure what they can do, but they want to be involved in making things better?
Oh yeah. Well, there's avenues I believe that people can take, like the letter writing would be great, writing to the MPs or Gord Johns or the Ministry of Justice, Justin Trudeau, and ministry. Oh, I already said that. Yeah, so there's a number of ways that people can help out. And I also believe and think that when we have gatherings, protests, or um, making people aware and to come and support us, and because fighting alone is not getting us anywhere. That's how I feel a majority of the time, is that we're fighting this battle all by ourselves with the justice and a number of other things. And um, I'll probably think of more after, but I think for now, I think that's what I can say.
Great. Thank you, Norah. And I know that you and I will have ongoing conversations. We're very fortunate to be able to gather and to talk about many things, but also systemic racism. And I think there's been an opening. COVID-19 has provided an opening for people to be aware of racism in a way in which maybe they weren't before, right? And
Mm-hmm.
maybe that's one gift in a very terrible situation, right?
Yeah, 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 I think so too. Yeah.
I just
Mm-hmm.
want to thank you again, Norah, for being willing to come on and help and make a recording. And I think, building relationship and just keeping on understanding, right, and
Mm-hmm.
hearing each other's story. I just firmly believe that's the way forward to help each other. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, it is. Yeah. Thank you for having me. And yeah.
you're welcome.
Mm-hmm.